You're watching Oilers Nation Everyday with Tyler Yaremchuk. Your one-stop shop for all things Oilers.
The Edmonton Oilers are not first place in the Pacific Division. Let's get into it with the lead. I'm sure today's going to be a tame one. Everyone's going to be nice and level-headed. Understand this was just one of 82.
It's one of 82 without 4 players. I would imagine people slept, had a nice rest, didn't think about the game much. Yeah. What's the chat saying? Tough game last night, guys, but we'll get it next time when we're healthy.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of that.
Yeah, I'm seeing that too. Don't give up on young goalies. Yeah, I see that too. All right, cool. Welcome into the show live from the Sports Closet studio. Check them out online, sportscloset.ca. Yesterday was not an ideal game for the Edmonton Oilers as they fall 5-2 or 5-3 at the hands of the Minnesota Wild. Jeff Skinner banging one in late.
Back.
Oh, he's going to score in bunches. I can feel it.
He was, so last night, you do when the game gets out of hand, you think, what have I got to do right now to not watch the end of this game?
Yeah, where have I gone so wrong in my life that I'm here?
Yeah. So I left my house yesterday.
As
with 5 minutes left. I thought, we're probably good. Went to go get gas. Listen to the radio. They get a few chances. I believe Perry was pretty close. I was like, okay, well, they're not getting anything here. Got out my car, filled it up, got back in, 5-3. Unbelievable. Couldn't believe it. I missed it.
I love Jack Michaels, but I was at the game. I left before Jeff Skinner scored.
Good idea.
Yeah, I just, beat the traffic. Did Jack Michaels do the not over yet thing, or was he pretty defeated?
I don't know. I was out.
Yeah, you're out.
Cam Newton on the radio.
Who knows? Okay, there's a lot to get to right now, or throughout the course of the show. Our boy Kumy is going to swing by in a little bit. Hot Honey, haven't had him on in a bit. He's in studio, so giddy up there. What else do we got? Oh, Johnny Lazarus will join us in a bit. The Oilers are taking on the Rangers tomorrow night. So our boy Jay Lazzy will pop by in about 40 minutes, and he'll talk to us about how the Rangers are looking as they get ready to roll into town. But first, Liam, let's get in a little scoring summary. And today our scoring summary is brought to you by our friends at Amazon Prime. Prime Monday Night Hockey is your spot, the only spot, the exclusive home for the NHL on Monday nights in Canada. You got Calgary, Ottawa coming up in the nation's capital this Monday. Connor Bedard taking on Toronto on December 2nd. You can get in with a free Prime membership or a 1-month trial to a Prime membership by clicking the description or link that is in our description. Whoa, Prime Monday Night Hockey. It's on Monday.
It's on Prime.
Giddy up. All right, scoring summary last night. Hey, we get to start on a high note.
Yeah.
27 seconds into the hockey game, we got this. Leon Draisaitl from his own end of the ice, off the skate of Kirill Kaprizov, off the boards, through the feet of Jacob Middleton, and past Marc-Andre Fleury. What?
Yeah, this was pretty... I'm not really sure in the moment, wasn't sure what happened, but right as Fleury goes to play it, I'm not sure why he's even trying to play it with McDavid right on him there, but goes to play
Look at how high it jumps.
Yeah, kind of crazy, to be honest.
There's a side angle. I'm wondering if they show it here. Look at this. That was, I'll rewind it a touch.
That is pretty nasty bounce.
That's insane.
Yeah. In his 1,000th start as a goalie, which is also insane.
That's also insane. Yeah. So much insanity. So as you know, I kind of sit down in that corner.
Yeah.
So I had the perfect bird's eye view, and I was just watching. And then I saw that puck jump up, and your heart goes like, whoop. And then it's in the back of the net, and McDavid was visibly confused as the team celebrated. Leon Draisaitl, hey, man, when the bounces are going your way, they're going your way. He's got 15 on the year now, and that is just – listen, I understand what you're saying. What is Fleury even doing? But, that puck was rolling flat for 12 feet. I don't blame Fleury at all, actually, on this. He's in his 1,000th game. I don't think a puck's ever bounced like that on him.
Oh, I'm sure he's made that play a ton, but yeah.
Over 1,000 times, probably.
Probably. It was funny, too. And later on, it won't show it in this highlight, but you can show Draisaitl when he kind of gets towards the bench. He looks, I can't remember what it was, too. He's like, what happened? It was just one of those plays. And
I thought Podkolzin touched it. That would have been a great first goal for Podkolzin.
Nice, but it's just one of those plays you think oh, maybe this is our night.
Mm-hmm.
Evidently, it was not.
No, it was not. I also want to give, like, Marc-Andre Fleury is a legend. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer for his play on the ice. He's also a legend off the ice and like with his personality. And what I loved, first off, he's so mad that after that goal went in, he went to go do his little like skate and he took the puck out and just fired it against the glass as hard as he could, or against the end boards, which was funny. And then of course everyone gives him the little Bronx cheer when he stops one. But then later in that game, I think it was later in the first period. It may have been the third, but I think it was later in the first. There was another dump in that took a skip and he had to like kind of shoulder up. I think it would have missed the net anyways, but he had to like do that. And the crowd was kind of like whatever, clapping and jeering him. And I could see him from my spot. He had the biggest grin on his face. Like Marc-Andre Fleury played the part very well last night. But regardless, Oilers were up 1-0, nice and early on. And I actually thought they played really well. Like they had 6 shots in the first 6 minutes of that hockey game. They had every opportunity to be up 2 or maybe even 3-0. But Fleury mentally rebounded very, very well. And then Minnesota just kind of became too much. Matt Boldy ties the game, his 11th of the year at the 9:56 mark. Some good puck movement here by the Minnesota Wild, and then just a laser by Matt Boldy. Good traffic in front too.
Hate this goal so much. We're not going to see it on this angle, but Evan Bouchard just does not touch that guy in front at all.
No, he screens Stuart Skinner.
It's so frustrating because obviously Minnesota had scored right before this too, with a goal that was offside, and Ekholm or Bouchard, whichever one you want to blame, if the defenseman didn't make space, left too much space in front. And this one was like, how are you just letting this guy just stand there? And then it shows the angle.
And then he jumps out of the way.
I know. And it's so bad. Like, I don't blame Skinner on this one at all. It's just like, he doesn't see the puck because Bouchard doesn't move whoever that is out of the way or make an effort to move him out of the way.
Yeah, southpaw. Move the body or block the shot. I mean, AB, I'll give a little pause here when it restarts. But like, okay, right here, if you're Evan Bouchard at this point, you need to recognize that there is a shot coming in. Yep. This is no longer perimeter play where you can maybe try to read a pass or whatever. Like, this is going to be a shot. It's Matt Boldy. You know who that is. He's a very good NHL player. You need to go if Evan Bouchard takes 2 steps and just shoves that guy, Stuart Skinner sees the shot and stops it.
I think too, like, I know the penalty kill overall this season hasn't been good, but it's been good enough recently. I don't think they allowed any power play goals again last night.
No, it's now
that's up to 14, 15 in a row.
13. It was 12 coming into yesterday, I believe.
Was it? Okay. Yes,
might have been.
That's right.
Okay.
So either
way,
in
that range.
They're doing really, really well.
Yeah.
Can probably afford to give a couple of cross checks to that guy. And if you take the penalty, you take the penalty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, help out your goalie a little bit, who is struggling. You had just allowed a goal against. Fortunately, it didn't count. But this for me was brutal by Bouchard. Brutal.
Second period, Minnesota jumps out to a lead. 3:09 mark. It's Marcus Foligno going hard to the net, his 4th of the season. And this is again one of those goals that's on everyone. Like, again, you would love to see Stuart Skinner just put an end to this and cover up the puck. You would also love to see a guy not get 3 whacks at the puck in front of the net. Like, there's the first shot. There was a second whack, and then the third one goes in. I think that was Yakov Trenin who gave it a little push. Like,
yeah, I don't think this puck ever actually gets to Skinner. I believe it is blocked in front a little bit there. But again, like, a lack of awareness from Evan Bouchard not to kind of tie up his guy or at least get close to it. And who was it scored? Foligno or Hartman?
It was Foligno.
Foligno, like,
yeah, this does get blocked in front.
It gets blocked in front. It never hits Skinner. And Foligno's right. Look how far away Bouchard is from the net. Like, you got to know that guy's coming. And maybe he's like, I don't want to screen my goalie again, but it was so bad. And again,
knock that puck away.
Minnesota had another goal disallowed right in front of this. Way more blatant of a push from Matt Boldy, but he had a great chance to just whack at the puck. And it was Bouchard and Ekholm again. 4 goals.
It was basically a similar goal. Like, Stuart Skinner, if you include the post that was hit, he got beat 4 times in the first 23 minutes of this hockey game. And
2 of them, I think the 2 goals actually counted. Like, I think the defender's got to play harder in front of him.
Absolutely. Corey Perry ties up the game, 6:03 mark, and you're starting to think, okay, we're getting close to the halfway point of this hockey game. You get a goal from the 4th line, which is always great, and a nice heady play. Corey Perry, on the replay they showed on the Jumbotron, he meant to do that. He saw that Spurgeon was there, and he used that bank shot to perfection. I think this angle actually kind of shows it nicely too. But a great play by Corey Perry. He scores his 4th of the season, and you're thinking, okay, we're getting close to halfway through. There's the 4th line goal. They hadn't had a power play yet at this point, and you're kind of starting to think like, they'll probably get a power play if they can score on that. You're probably bringing this to OT. Like, you could start to see the pathway, and they also played great the first 10 minutes of the hockey game. I could see the pathway to, okay, they dodged a bullet here. They got the 1 goal called back. They've now negated a deficit. Like, I thought they could get it back on the rails, and they just showed zero heart. They didn't give a shit. They didn't want to be in that hockey game.
There was not a lot of give a shit last night.
Nope.
in moments, and I think Louis called out on the broadcast a few times too. You could visibly hear the disappointment in the broadcast last night, and it takes a lot to pull the energy out of Jack and Louis. Don't get me wrong, but like, you could just see, and they were really fighting it in moments yesterday, and unfortunately, it was the top guys in moments that were the culprits of it, and it's becoming frustrating that, like, feels like this team is just regressing massively yesterday. And I don't want to overreact to this game because they were missing, we figured out, like 25 million in cap space.
9 on Nurse, players,
5 and 5 on Hyman and Kane and Arvidsson. Like, it wasn't a pretty lineup by any means. Probably had 4 American League players in your lineup yesterday. Mm-hmm. But I still feel like they had the opportunity, if they just kind of pushed a little bit more, to win this game against a very good Minnesota Wild team.
Yeah. Sean is in, oh boy, give a shit meters back. Yeah, I mean, it is, man, because listen, that Ottawa game was a great bounce back, but now in 2 of the Oilers' last 3 games, they have looked like they are not interested in being out there. And again, this was a concern coming into the year that they weren't going to have themselves dialed up for regular season hockey. They're going to be looking and thinking about how they can get back to the playoffs, and they're, still not riding the high, but maybe coming down off the high that was the Stanley Cup playoffs, and they wouldn't be able to find a good regular season level. And last night was one of those examples. Marcus Johansson scores at the 9-10 mark of the second period. That gives the Wild a lead that they would not give back up. Shot from the point, rebound kicked out. Where is everybody? Watching Stetcher and Brown on this shift drove me absolutely nuts. That's an American League 3rd pairing is what they looked like. Like, again, I want to watch the replay one more time, but like, pass across, okay, there's a good stick lift. I think it might have been like Nuge. And then this puck sits here. And like, you can count out 2 steamboats before anyone on the Oilers is like, ooh, I can go get that. But like, what are you doing, Jeff Skinner? Take 2. Why are you getting ready to fly the zone? Troy Stetcher, do something.
Troy Stetcher should have been able to like skate into this puck and been okay with it. And like, couple of whacks. He whacks it that time. It bounces right off Josh Brown's stick straight to Johansson there. Like, this is probably the one you would have wanted Skinner to have. Like, we'll get into him, I'm sure, when we get to the end of the summary. But this is, again, just like so scatterbrained in front of him and just brutal. And you can see the frustration from Stetcher there, of course, snapping his stick.
I mean, but like, care that much while the play's on. And again, Stetcher generally like tries hard, and he put in like a good amount of effort here, but like, you just have to be better. 4th goal, Freddie Gaudreau. He makes it 4-2 right at the end of the period. This one was like all right, they are not coming back in this hockey game. Looking as lifeless as they did for basically the entire period. That's one Stu's got to stop. That's a bad one. Again, a lot of these were defensive breakdowns and things like that. But if the Oilers get a stop there, this game's not over. They needed a big save from their guy, Stuart Skinner. They did not get that. And that was kind of it. I mean, I'll spare you the 3rd period highlights. It was Freddie Gaudreau makes it 5-2. Jeff Skinner pops one at the end, and the game ends 5-3. But that's just ugly. That was ugly. And I mean, maybe we should have seen it coming. It's a team with like a 750 points percentage. The Oilers are incredibly banged up, missing a lot of regulars. Like you said, icing a lot of American League guys. Maybe we should have seen that coming, but it still doesn't make the lack of effort we got from the top down excusable. It was awful.
Yeah, it was disappointing. I think sometimes too, like, when you have guys out of the lineup, you want to see guys step up to like be like, well, I can take this spot away from him. And I just don't think we saw that at all. Like,
jam.
I tweeted last night. I was like, I don't even know if half the players even played. Like, Nuge was invisible. Henrique was very quiet. Derek Ryan played, I'm assuming. I didn't notice him all, but like, there's your 3 centers outside of McDavid that you needed to kind of like step up and show something. It's not even about like going out, and obviously you want them to score points, but like, you got to look at that blue line and be like, okay, like, we're struggling here.
Yeah.
We've not got a lot of bodies. We got to play better in front of Stu and help this blue line out and make things a little easier for them. And we just didn't see it at all. And I think on Skinner, like the frustrating part about it isn't necessarily like the goals that went in. I think a couple of them you would have liked to save, but it's more of like you're just not getting the save.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the part that's frustrating with him right now is he's not helping you. And I don't think he's like damaging you is the wrong word because clearly he is a little bit, but like you just need one save out of him. I think it would kind of turn the tides on games.
Yeah, there's no doubt he has to get better, and we're going to continue to have that conversation here. Let's get to our first guest of the day. It is our boy Kumy, and it is brought to you by Greta. Can we do this one for Greta? Arcade, bar, street food. It is your go-to spot, whether you're looking for a pregame drink, whether you're looking for a good time on the postgame. Greta can bring it all. It's a great spot to watch the game as well. Their TV setup is absolutely elite. There's nothing better. And again, get dropped off at Greta. Have a little pre-gamer. The food there is good. If you're going to the game, wander on down the street. It's nice and close. After the game, come on back. Little arcade games afterwards. Kumy, what's your go-to arcade game at Greta? I don't have Kumsy's mic potted up.
Uh-oh. He said
Put the ad back up, Aaron.
You're not even interested in what I have to say. You brought me on. This whole thing was
what?
This whole thing was a dupe.
This is a prank. It is April.
It's just a prank.
Happy April 1st, April Fool's Day. By the way, Kumy said Mario Party. I think your mic's on.
Okay, my mic's on. It was Mario Kart that I meant to say, not Mario Party. I was thinking about Mario Party because I recently purchased Mario Party Jamboree for the Switch, and it's an excellent game.
I like Mario Golf on the Switch.
Of course you do.
I know.
I like the whole Mario catalog on the Switch. I'm
really
a
good.
big Mario game guy. Nice and simple for me.
What'd you make of that loss last night?
I thought it was quite bad. I think it's I wrote this on the site this morning, but it's quite worrying that every time the Oilers play a playoff team, like not a playoff team from last season, but a team that through one quarter of this year around US Thanksgiving, you kind of know where everyone's at or where most teams are at. All of the test games the Oilers have played this year, all the measuring stick games, they've lost pretty much all of them. The only wins they've come up with where you think, okay, that was a competitive team are the ones that they went against Calgary and Vancouver. Otherwise, it's losses in all these games. And Minnesota was another one of those yardstick teams, one of those they missed the playoffs last year. They're off to a hot start this year, and they came and at no point in Thursday's game did it seem like the Oilers were going to win. At no point, no, right?
I think I don't disagree with you by any means. The frustrating part about it is they have actually had good games against like competitive playoff teams. Like think about Dallas. They were really good in that game until they fell apart. Toronto until they fell apart. Carolina overtime loss. I think they were relatively solid. And that Stu was their best player that night.
Yeah, he was.
And then it was one of Vegas. Like they were fine against Vegas until they blew it up on their own.
Yeah,
they're just finding so many ways, and it's credit to them. I don't know how they're doing it. I'm struggling to think of other ways they can lose games now, but they're finding ways to do it.
But you look at all the games that they've won this year, and it's Chicago, Philadelphia, Nashville. 3 of those wins this year against Nashville, and they've been a disaster. Pittsburgh, they've been a mess. Detroit, they've been bad for years. Columbus, they're bad. The Islanders, mediocre. Ottawa, like these are teams that's pretty much all of Edmonton's wins this year, and those aren't teams they should be losing to. So
yeah. The only impressive win I have on here is Vancouver 7-3.
Yeah,
where it's like you were going into the game a little nervous and they showed you something.
Yeah, that was an impressive win. I think I don't even know how much credit I want to give this. The other one is going into Calgary and win it and looking at the way
Calgary's having a good year.
Even beating Vancouver, you're beating a team where their Vezina caliber starting goalie is injured and they have a PTO guy starting for them, like a guy who couldn't find a contract until September. And that's who works. The best win the Oilers have had through a month and a half of play is that.
I'm excited.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, like injuries are a thing. And to be fair, it's not something the Oilers have actually had to deal with a lot over the last number of seasons. Their blue line has always been remarkably healthy. For the most part, Connor and Leon have stayed very healthy over the last couple of years. They missed McDavid for a few games now already this month. And then it's at once Hyman, Arvidsson, on top of the fact you don't have Evander Kane, which again, you've known you didn't have Evander Kane since the beginning. But still, losing Hyman and Arvidsson really took a layer of depth out of this team. And last night we saw like they had one forward line that you kind of looked at and were like, boy, that's capable of doing some damage. And it was the McDavid line. And the other 3 were just flat. I thought Yaremchuk was their best player outside of the top line, and that's not good.
Yeah, that says a lot, doesn't it? I can't remember who it was. Someone, do you know what? I think it was Jim Matheson Credit to
Jimbo.
Jim.
Mhm.
He put out today, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is 6 points at even strength. Matthias Janmark has 8.
Mm.
I think that just kind of paints the image of a lot of these players right now, doesn't it? Of what they're being capable of, what they're capable of,
Yeah.
and what they're producing.
So that actually kind of ties in nicely to what I have as our short for giant question for the day. Hockey fans helping hockey fans use the valet service to never have to go to the dealership again. Plus, if you're a nation citizen and you go purchase a vehicle there, you can get $500 towards a service plan. It pays to be a nation citizen. It pays to use our friends at Short for the Giant and make them your next dealership. My question is, do the Oilers have a depth problem? Because you go and look, their goals for the forwards this year. McDavid or Draisaitl has 15 goals. McDavid has 9. Next on the list is Perry Skinner at 4. And then it goes to Zach Hyman and Connor Brown at 3 apiece. And we came into this year being like, whoa, this is the deepest forward group that the Oilers have ever had. Like, we were ready to say they were going to just outscore their problems because the blue line looked weak and whatever. When you look at the lack of production that you're getting from Arvidsson when healthy, Janmark has 1 goal this year. Nuge only has 2. Henrique 2. Hyman only at 3. Even a guy
Podkolzin hasn't scored yet.
Podkolzin hasn't scored yet. I didn't
Derek
scroll
Ryan
down
hasn't
far enough.
scored yet. Yeah.
It's interesting because I think when you define depth,
Mhm.
people think of like the bottom 6. And you read off those guys, and you're like, okay, Skinner spent most of his time in the bottom 6. Corey Perry has been a 4th line player.
Yeah.
And Connor Brown, what'd you say, has 3 goals?
Yeah.
So the answer, I think, is no, the Oilers don't have a depth problem. The Oilers have a problem in their top 6 that their top players aren't scoring goals.
They have a getting it done problem. Like, I think the
Yeah.
players are there. That's all there on paper. We've seen largely this group have success. There was a handful of changes in the offseason after the Cup run, but it's by and large the same team. And there's some guys that just aren't getting it done. And then there's also players in the American Hockey League. Think Noah Philp came up for a couple of games, was pretty impressive. And then there's, Matthew Savoy as well, who they acquired in the offseason. And it's maybe there is depth, but they're opting to play Derek Ryan every single game, who doesn't really look like he's an NHL caliber player right now. Maybe there's other players in the AHL who could do better. Maybe it's the same thing on the blue line. Maybe I don't know who it is, but maybe there's names down there. Maybe Phil Kemp's a good shutdown defender. Maybe it's time to try some guys in the AHL and have some more competition for roster spots on the team.
It is interesting that they choose to call up, and I don't mean this to be a shot at Josh Brown, because I think he's come up and been what we expected it to be, and I think you needed to give him the chance to do it. But like, why is Drake Caggiula back up again? I like Caggiula, but like, is it not more important to have like a Philp in the lineup or something like that? Like, you're kind of losing.
What
scores,
did Noah
right?
Philp not do?
I know. At first, I thought it was just like a money thing, but if they're like calling him back up, it's crazy.
But they can just dip into the LTIR and have these players. Like, there's all the talk about accruing cap space and this and that. But I mean, you don't have to think that far ahead. You kind of have to worry about winning games in November and December.
They're in LTIR right now. So why Phil? And again, if they're sitting there going, well, there's not a lot of forwards down in Baco, like we need. At some point, you just kind of need to shrug and go, like, sorry, Condors.
Yeah.
Or just sign them some players.
Yeah, like, you don't have to win.
Like, just get them some players.
And I know this is going to sound worse or whatever. And then, like, you don't have to win American League games right now.
Yeah.
As much as you don't want to leave them on an island and you need to have a good culture down there so you can churn out good players, if you have to sit there and shrug and go, sorry, Baco, you're shorthanded and you're playing with some East Coast guys or some ECHL guys for a bit, then you have to do it. Like, you need to, I think you're right, Kumsey. I think there needs to be more competition here and there needs to be some fresh blood. Like, why you're letting Derek Ryan just coast his way to $1 million this year, $900,000 while not doing anything is beyond me. Like, at least I can look at Podkolzin and be like, couple of good assists. He's got some jam. He's, put him out on the PK. Good things can happen. Like, all that. Derek Ryan's not even killing penalties anymore.
I said this when they sent down Lavoie, and he got lost on waivers. I think it's a bad idea. Like, I understand the idea of like accruing cap, but Coombs right. Like, you got to think and live in the present sometimes too.
Yep.
And the present day today is that the Oilers are finding ways to lose games too often. They're struggling in front of their goaltender, and their goaltender's not making them saves. And weirdly enough, they can't score enough goals to get them out of their own problems.
Yeah.
And a guy like Lavoie, like, we never saw at the NHL level, but he proved enough at the American League level that he could have probably produced a little bit more. But with that said, like, look at the spots he would have taken at 3rd and 4th line on the right wing. Brown and Perry have 7 goals combined, which is more than Hyman and Arvidsson combined.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really do think you got to add more competition. But I
But
also think I don't want to overreact too much to last night's game.
well, and there is that too. Like on one hand, they're right in the mix, and we had people in
Yeah.
the comments being like, they might not make the playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs. This is their tough stretch. We know they're capable of going on a heater, and they're right in the mix. This is not 2-9-1. This is not as dire as last year. They are not going to need an 8-game heater to solve all their problems this season. They just got to start playing some more consistent hockey. Raphael Lavoie, by the way, 1 goal in 11 games down at the Henderson Silver Knights.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's maybe a bad example.
I know, but like I agree in the sense of like you were okay with your fourth line being Ryan, Corey Perry, and whoever else is on that left side. Janmark.
It was, wasn't it?
Why can this organization not just sit there and be like, you know what, we're going to run a young fourth line. Let's see if we can get some jam going. Let's see if they can actually do something. I feel like they did the safe call, and the play probably should have been like a Podkolzin, Philp. You have Kapanen now. Podkolzin, Philp, Kapanen. Can't that trio actually skate hard and give you something?
Sorry.
At least have, the problem with the Oilers over the past few years, I don't think it's talked about enough. And this is, kind of the salary cap problem thing, a big picture thing, but they almost never have 14 forwards on their roster to rotate different guys, try different third, fourth lines, insert somebody into the top 6 one game to play this style of team. It's always, there's 12 forwards on the roster, maybe 13. There's one extra guy, and it's the same players playing every night, no matter what. And Edmonton, of course, being a Western Conference team, really long travel schedule. So everyone's playing no matter what. You don't have that internal push where you have to find that extra gear because you might lose your spot for a week. They already don't have that, and it's just the same players no matter what. So I think that's one of the frustrating things is you just know when you see the team having that slow, lethargic effort that next game it's not going to be 2 or 3 players in a different spot. It's just going to be, by and large, the same thing.
One thing, like you mentioned Kapanen then being like a fourth line guy, and he was largely invisible yesterday, but having that speed and that extra skill that he was able to bring drew 2 penalties for the Oilers. He literally got them 2 power plays from skating with the puck.
Yep.
I think, like you said, like guys like Philp and Savoy, for example, and maybe 2 other guys who can do that because they move fast.
He can move. Like again,
Yeah.
I the team speed thing I think isn't.
I think it's overblown.
I think it's a little overblown.
Yeah.
That's the word I was looking for. But you also, like I said the other day, you need to have guys who can get to dangerous spots fast. And even if they're not scoring, like you said, Kapanen can at least get to a dangerous spot, can move with the puck, can force the other team to make a play. Montreal last night, the Oilers were totally okay being perimeter. And that was the concern for me heading into that game last night. I said it on this show was Minnesota's better at defending the inside than most teams in the league. One of the best, or if not the best, expected goals against in the NHL. They don't give you quality. Edmonton didn't have enough guys who had the boots or the jam to want to get to tough areas last night, and that's a legit concern. But like you said, Cam, they have the players. Like this is at some point, I don't know what the wake-up call is, but like Adam Henrique has scored 20 goals in the NHL before. Jeff Skinner scored 30. How do they look this pedestrian this consistently?
Yeah, are they that burnt out? Is it? I mean, I wouldn't understand from Skinner's case because he's never played in the playoffs before. But you can understand from a guy like Henrique. Okay, there was an injury in the playoffs all the way to the Cup final. I mean, I guess you can understand why there's slow starts for some of these guys, but there's other ones where you can't really see it at all. I don't understand why Jeff Skinner would not be off to a slow start, or it is weird. It can only be an excuse for so long. It was an excuse in October. Yeah, there's fatigue, burnout, whatever, Stanley Cup run hangover, but we're into late November now. That just can't really be an excuse anymore.
Yeah, Hurt Now Burton with a good one. As much as this is a cliche, I get what you're saying. They don't hate to lose. And I got that a little bit last night, like on those 2 power plays. And listen, you never want to call out Connor McDavid because he's Connor freaking McDavid, but a couple of things didn't go his way and his shoulder slumped and he kind of just lightly skated off the ice about a minute into the power play. And it's like, okay, if Connor McDavid really didn't want to lose that hockey game, we've seen it. He doesn't come off the ice. He doesn't sit there and just slowly skate off and go, oh, well, damn, eh?
Maybe next time.
Yeah, like that's not his mindset in the games where he's fired up. And maybe they were tired because they just came off a road trip or whatever you want to do. But like, I don't know.
It's also really cold outside.
Yeah, the weather.
Maybe it could perhaps be the cold weather this week.
Call me crazy, but like we usually do go through this stretch when it first gets cold and the Oilers play like shit.
We've got to do like a deep dive research on when the cold snaps come in every Edmonton winter and how the Oilers played during their home stretches that year.
Also, Dermott was sick, so I saw some people online being like,
So you wouldn't have seen this because you were at the game. on the broadcast, Josh Brown literally was in Bakersfield yesterday.
He went to Baco?
He went to
They actually sent him?
Yeah.
And they brought him back?
And they brought him back.
Just to put him on an airplane with a bunch of people who might be sick.
Yeah. They literally flew him down. They found out Dermott was sick and then flew him back to Edmonton yesterday. Isn't that crazy?
That's wild.
Yeah. I have a fact for you and a stat, and it's very annoying. Would you believe me if I told you the Oilers' 4 lines yesterday outshot the Minnesota Wild at 5-5?
So the combos, you're
Like
looking
shots
at the
on goal or just
Shot
attempts?
I think this is shots for. Yeah, it says shots for, shots against. The Connor McDavid. So the first line was 11-8. The second line was even at 3-3. The Henrique line was 2-1, and Corey Perry's line was 4-2. And there was 2 lines on the Minnesota Wild. One of them was a bit of a breakable. They did play 248 together. That combined for 0 shots. And the Oilers lost this game 5-3.
Yeah, like the line tool does things a little bit weird, right? Because if you're on the ice it skips parts to the games, but there were 3 Oilers forwards who got outshot at 5-on-5: Brown, Skinner, and Henrique.
I would not have believed you if you had told me that. Like, it doesn't seem real because they just seem so outplayed yesterday.
They did. And like, again, with the top line on the ice, the shot attempts were very much in the Oilers' favor. And they just, again, it feels just so perimeter though.
Yeah.
And also Evan Bouchard, for the love of God, get a puck through.
It is amazing. Did you know one thing though? Yesterday they did put Ekholm on that power play late.
They did. And
for like a good minute.
But again, like, send those messages if you're Chris Knobloch. Like, it's not like if they do it now, they have to do it for the next 60 games. And also, if someone's going to get their feelings hurt, or if someone's going to come into the room and be like, whatever, because you put Derek Ryan on waivers, then you have a bad room. And I don't think they do, but like, send some messages if you're Chris Knobloch.
There's always other teams. The example that gets brought up all the time is the Vegas Golden Knights have been willing to make the moves that, you know, nobody really wants to make, the moves that are counter to what people would say are, you know, creating a good room, like showing loyalty and whatnot. I'm not saying to be the Golden Knights and stab every player in the back and whatnot, but, you know, you can't be afraid to put somebody on waivers if they haven't scored a goal through 20 games.
The Minnesota Wild put Fleury to Chicago for a 7th round pick. Didn't he win?
After winning the Vezina,
yeah.
The Golden Knights, yeah.
After he won the Vezina.
Incredible. And we sit here with Derek Ryan. And I hate to throw Corey Perry in this conversation because he has 4 goals on the year.
He's having a good year.
He's doing well.
Yep.
But like, we sit here as the staff of the Oilers, not us. We are not staff. And we're like, 1.4 million for Corey Perry is a good deal. Like,
with the
is
bonus.
Insane.
1.15.
1.15.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
like
bad.
the Vegas Golden Knights would have sat there, looked at Corey Perry and his agent and said, "Oh, you want to play here because you want to win? It's league minimum, buddy."
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's
surprising that, you know.
the Golden Knights 4th line, just for example, is a Tanner Pearson, who I think was a PTO for them.
PTO league min.
8 million. They have that Cole Schwint.
Yeah, that was a
5
waiver pickup from Calgary.
Yeah, not 8 million, 8 points. He has 5 assists, and then some guy called Cal Burke, who I think is a caller. But it's just like there's no money on that.
But how are their
4th
top
line.
players performing? And that's the problem with the
Very
Oilers. Is a lot
well.
of their top players aren't outperforming.
Barbashev's off to a great start.
Barbashev has 8 goals. Eichel has 6, 23 assists. Hurdle has 7 goals. Nicholas Waugh has 5 goals. Keegan Colasar has 5 goals.
So the Edmonton Oilers have 2 players with 5 or more goals this year. Forwards, that is. McDavid has 9, Draisaitl has 15. Every other forward is under 5. Just pick a team. Pick a team at random team. Utah. Perfect. Let's go. Let's find Utah in here. I'm not used to have to scrolling to the U part of this. They have more than the Oilers. McBain, Clayton Keller, Barrett Hayton, Dylan Gunther. Sure. Like, you could pick any team in the league, and they at least have a few guys on their roster sprinkled through that have pissed a drop offensively. And the Oilers, they're sitting here being like, well, Corey Perry's got 4 goals. Great.
This is not good. I clicked on the San Jose Sharks.
Oh, boy. How many do they have?
So it's
Holy
5
Christ.
goals, right?
Yeah. They have more.
Granlund is 9. Zetterlund has 7. Toffoli has 9. Wenberg is 5.
Yeah.
And for context sake, Eklund has 4 and Celebrini has 4.
Yeah, in 10 games. Columbus Blue Jackets, Monahan, Olivier, Marchenko, Shinnikov, 4 forwards with more goals with more than 5 goals. Like, you can go and pick any team that you think is miserable, and they basically get better depth scoring than the Edmonton Oilers right now. So again, to answer the question, like, I think there is a depth problem, but I don't think it's a roster construction problem. I think it's guys got to fucking play better. And it's ridiculous that no message has been sent, and they're basically running out the same forward group every single game. Do something, Chris Knobloch. You're an NHL head coach.
Yeah, I think you actually summed it up nicely then too. Just like it's not the roster. Like someone put out here's a comment for you. You'll all love this. Someone put on Instagram last night, and I understand everyone's frustrated and the solutions are everywhere, but in Edmonton, of course. But someone tweeted at me last night and listed, like, imagine if the Oilers had McLeod, Holloway, Broberg, Klim Kostin, Nick Bukestad, and Cody Ceci.
What are we doing?
Well, no.
Broberg's injured right now.
And also, when those guys were here, they didn't do anything.
They weren't the solution either. So,
Is Klim Kostin doing anything right now? Bukestad just scored his first.
He's been healthy scratch. He was healthy scratch for like a month.
I don't think. I mean, I understand the sentiment around Holloway and Broberg.
Totally. Yeah, and I get the frustration, but like the grass isn't greener. I just think this team needs to be better. Like the guys need to score more goals.
Yep.
I mean, that's an easy. Also, don't look at the Chicago Blackhawks.
Oh God, do they have a lot?
They have 4.
Oh my God. All right. Last area I wanted to hit.
Sorry, 5.
Last area I wanted to hit on with you, Kumsey. Let's get to what's trending for our friends at Sherwood Power Sports and Marine, because there's a little rumor percolating around. Home of the $50 biweekly ATV. You can be on a boat next summer for as low as $105 biweekly, right in the heart of Sherwood Park. They're hockey fans, helping hockey fans with motorcycles, quads, e-bikes, and boats. Their service department is top tier as well. The rumor floating around is that John Gibson would be willing to contemplate waiving his no movement clause to come to Edmonton, and the Ducks are apparently motivated to do right by the player and get him on a contender. First, may I add, they are 3 years too late in trying to trade John Gibson. Also, if you see anyone out there bringing up John Gibson and saying, like, I saw someone on Twitter, Stan Bowman needs to drop everything and make John Gibson the priority.
What year is it?
Have you watched hockey in the last 5 years, or are you looking at the back of a hockey card being like, oh, you had a 9-12 7 years ago? Remember the playoffs in 2017? John Gibson is Calvin Pickard.
Calvin Pickard might be better.
I texted Hutton today because I was like, am I taking crazy pills? Like, why are we talking about John Gibson in Edmonton? And he said, I don't even want to misquote him on all of this, but he basically said he would be a lateral move on Pickard.
He has since the last time he got Vezina votes, which was 2018-19. So 6 seasons since then, his save percentage is exactly 900, and that's over 244 games played.
Damn. I also thought you were talking about the Blue Jays guy.
Gibby?
John Gibbons, like the manager?
Because you asked Kumy when we were talking about what's trend. I was like, oh, wow, Gibby, 3rd term for John Gibson. But yeah, hopefully we don't get either of them back. I don't know. Mike McKenna was always on this guy. Just being like, he is not the guy you want on your team.
He's not a good goalie anymore.
He's past it. And I
also,
get it, but
from the stuff I've heard, not a great teammate.
Yeah, and also I would hope he'd be willing to waive his no trade clause to come to Edmonton. Like, he better be considering stuff like
the
that.
The idea of him, he'd be willing to contemplate it or whatever.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
I don't love the ideas of taking on key players from terrible teams. I'm not sure going out and looking at the Buffalo Sabres this offseason and taking players who weren't wanted on the Buffalo Sabres was ideal. I don't know if this isn't really doing right by John Gibson. This is just, is he even really a good NHL goalie anymore? The Ducks want to get out from under that cap hit. Of course they want to trade him. It makes sense. He's not playing to his ability anymore. I don't think this is really the Ducks moving an asset to a team. This is the Ducks trying to unload a player that's, that's obviously not worth what they're being paid anymore.
Yeah, they want to find extra.
This is their Milan Lucic contract now.
Totally.
Yeah. Dosto, by the way, who is the starter now and now played Gibson, has a 924 this season.
Skate, this is a little teaser for Oilers Nation Radio. This is going to be our delicious debate on that episode, but I'll ask you the question. 1 to 10, 10 being pull all the alarms, sound all the alarms, 1 being I'm not worried. Where are you on Stuart Skinner? Like, as him being the guy.
I don't know, maybe like a 4 or a 5. I'm not really worried per se. I'm skeptical now that there's been enough of a sample size that we're looking at Skinner and we're seeing a goalie who, if everything's going well, the team's firing on all cylinders offensively and defensively, special teams are working and the efforts there, then Skinner can be the goalie in the net that gets the job done, like a Chris Osgood type goalie. But I think at this point we can say comfortably that he's not the kind of goalie who's going to be stealing them wins or is going to be carrying them through a stretch or a playoff run. I think that's reasonable.
I think I'm a 6. I think I agree with everything you said. I think ultimately he obviously can be better. Like he's way better than what he's showing right now, but he's just way too inconsistent at the moment. The blue line in front of him, when healthy, has been decent enough. He needs to figure out where he's at with everything, but I think he'll calm down. I think he'll be fine.
I'll say I'm a 5. I'm a 4.5. I'm still more on the side of you're fine.
Yeah.
I think Stuart Skinner, as Chili said, Skinner is good on a proper tandem. Sure. I also think Skinner would be good with a blue line in front of him that isn't 33% American leaguers.
Yeah, that would
but I think that would largely help. And Evan Bouchard actually playing well. Again, this team is playing right now without a good defensive pairing. Kulak Emberson's been decent, but other than that, Ekholm and Bouchard are struggling right now. And the third pairing is absolutely garbage since Nurse got hurt. So I sit there and still think if he's in a better situation, it's fine. I also think paying $3.6 million total for these two goalies is a good thing for the Oilers. If anyone tries to bring up John Gibson, you can dismiss them right away. Someone in the chat keeps going, Skinner a first in prospects, go get Jordan Binnington. Jordan Binnington has an .888 save percentage this season. Yeah. What the fuck are we doing?
Who's going to shout at the players on the ice and motivate them?
Well, he's also, again, not super liked. And he has an .888 save percentage on a team that apparently has a better blue line than the Oilers.
A lot of people are calling for Mackenzie Blackwood. I see his name in capital letters. Okay.
What do you think of him?
But he plays on the San Jose Sharks, so that contradicts my you can't trade for players on bad teams. I don't actually really mean that. But
not like good players on bad teams.
Yeah. Like key players.
I shouldn't. You trade for the good players on bad teams, but not to play key roles on your team.
Yeah, it's not the best rule, but something to consider.
I also think the Oilers do have a good tandem for Skinner. Maybe they just need to play Pickard a bit more.
I'd play Pickard more. I mean,
he'll play tomorrow.
Maybe split the time now for about a month or so.
So
you should.
Blackwood is $2.35 million. Again, great numbers, but he has great numbers because he faces a ton of rubber. And I think that can mask things sometimes. Blackwood's also struggled to stay healthy or at points in his career, and that's something else. Do I think getting a better, maybe higher upside goalie to play with Stuart Skinner would be a good idea? Yes. You should always be looking to upgrade your team. But another thing we need to remember, the Edmonton Oilers have limited bullets.
Yeah.
Yep.
They have a second and a third rounder this year. Okay. If you trade both those, you're not picking till the 6th round, which, again, if you're going to sit there and be like, who cares, cup window, which I agree, cup window, flags fly forever kind of stuff, do it. But then we can't be complaining about the lack of prospects in 18 months if you don't make a pick till the 6th round this year. Next year, they have all their picks. Okay. Do you want to dip into next year's pool? Sure. But then this time next year, we are going to be having the same conversation of they have no prospects and no picks. So I like Blackwood. Is San Jose giving him to you for next year's 4th round pick? I don't know.
Probably not. And the Sharks also can't retain on anybody else anymore. So you can't think, oh, yeah, maybe they'll take on somebody else and then get money retained. They don't have the flexibility to do that anymore. So not easy.
3rd and a 6th for Blackwood retained by another team. And, maybe if you're willing to pay up to a 3rd, because the goalie market's never that strong. If you can go give a 3rd to San Jose, you give another team a 6th, and San Jose gives them a 6th too, and they keep half. Maybe we're getting somewhere there.
Rodriguez is a prospect as well as somebody who could maybe go back in a goalie trade.
Yeah, San Jose is Askarov.
That's true.
But maybe it's something where, again, there's a team out there who likes Rodrigue enough where you could go, okay, you take Rodrigue. That's all the Oilers are giving up in the Blackwood deal, and San Jose is giving is paying the retention. Maybe there's a way to do it. Again, I don't hate the idea of Mackenzie Blackwood. He's probably the only guy on the market who I would like. I do not like Jordan Binnington. His cap hit is enormous, and he's just generally an obnoxious player. I do not like John Gibson because he is not a good goalie. I would consider doing Blackwood. I would. I still say let's talk at Christmas.
Yeah. It's hard to pull the trigger on trades at this time unless it's struggling guy A for struggling guy B. It's the Oilers don't have the assets to totally overpay for a trade in early December.
Yeah. You want to stick around for the rest of the show? 15 minutes till the end.
Sure.
But we do have another guest.
That's fine.
All right, let's do it. We're going full roundtable as we go out to the Star Mechanical guest line, Edmonton's #1 plumbing and heating company. You can find out more about them online at starmechanical.ca. When I texted our boy Johnny Lazarus and said, hey, do you want to pop on the show, talk some Rangers? He said, sure, I'll be on my phone. I said, no problem. But then I remembered non-zero chance he might be rollerblading. It's very good to are stationed in one spot doing this. What's up, Johnny?
Tyler, I'm surprised that you didn't want Cody Ceci in a package with Blackwood to come back to the Oilers. I'm surprised that name didn't pop up.
Why are you wearing a Montreal Canadiens shirt? Just
it was gifted to me by FE Apparel, one of the NHL's partnerships for clothing. And I'm actually in a hotel right now, and it was like a nice little comfortable shirt.
What do you got going on this weekend?
I'm calling the UMass versus Harvard game tonight, so I'm up at UMass right now. Got kicked out of my hotel room, so I'm sitting in the lobby trying to kill 2 hours studying up for the game before I have to go to the rink and get changed and put my suit on.
Beautiful stuff. Where can people watch that? Where's the broadcasting? ESPN?
It'll be on ESPN Plus, yeah. Don't know if there are any Oilers prospects in this game off the top of my head. I don't think there are. So
prospects.
Not sure if your Oilers are not sure if your fan base would be interested, but would love any support I can get.
You know, the Crew have a UMass commit.
Really?
John Alexander Banks. He's legit.
There's a freebie
Check
for you
him
for the show.
Okay.
If you need anything more, talk to the Crusaders head scout. All right, let's talk a bit about the NHL matchup for tomorrow that we're going to be dialed into. Rangers, Oilers. General vibe check on the Rangers so far this year. It feels like I look at the standings and it's like, okay, they are winning a heck of a lot more than they're losing. But then I read people online and their fan base on Twitter being like, Zibanejad sucks. This team's not a contender. Where are we at with this Rangers team? What are they?
To me, right now, they're a first-round exit, honestly, if I'm speaking openly and honestly. But it seems like there are a lot of similarities with, like, the vibe check of the Oilers, right? Like, you know, you guys obviously got to a Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final last year. It's a really long season and a lot of hope and a lot of great moments that were brought to you. And it's hard to kind of flip that switch for 82 games when I feel like everybody just wants to get back to the playoffs, right? Like, it's hard to care about a random game, I'm sure, at home against the Rangers when, you know, your team just played in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final. But you know, similarly to the Rangers, the team feels like they're just looking to flip a switch later on in the year too, right? Like we're talking about games like 16, 17, and 18 of the season where the Rangers have something to prove. And that shouldn't be the case for a team that has Stanley Cup aspirations. And I assume that's the same feeling over at Edmonton, right? Where the Oilers are playing some games some nights where it's like, okay, we got to prove something here tonight, which is kind of ridiculous for a team that just had as good of a year as they just had. But right now it seems like both fan bases, if I'm comparing the two, have higher expectations and higher standards for their team where, you know, there is a lot of displeasure in games where the competitiveness isn't there. And right now for the Rangers, you know, while they have a lot of elite talent offensively, defensively, they look like a disaster. The goaltending has bailed them out in many games. You know, last night, I believe Igor Shesterkin made around 47 saves against the Calgary Flames, which you guys know Calgary much better than I do. Shouldn't have to make 47 saves against the Flames, right? Like that's kind of ridiculous. So, you know, it's been a little bit of a disappointing start to the season. And, you know, quite frankly, the word that I would use is uninspiring.
That's probably pretty bang on with the Oilers. And it feels like the reverse where like the goalies are making you guys look better or making the Rangers look better than they are. And I do think to an extent the goalies are making the Oilers look worse than they are. Makes tomorrow's matchup all the more interesting, really.
Well, your problem seems to be that you guys don't have a strong enough blue line to, you know, have the goaltenders hide that, where our blue line is relatively weak as well, but our goaltenders make the blue line look better than it actually is. Your problems are, you know, it's really funny to actually think about it because, like, while Panarin and Lafreniere are obviously not in the same category as McDavid and Draisaitl, they're the two guys that have bailed out this team for the most part offensively. And, you know, there have been some role players like Will Cooley. That's a great. Filipino before being hurt has been incredible. Probably their most consistent forward prior to injury. And then, you know, Capo Caco's had a really solid start to this year, actually, which has been really nice to see because, you know, it's a guy like that who's taken a lot of heat over the past 5-6 years. And to see him happy and smiling, contributing, you know, as a fan is a great feeling. But, you know, our problems between these two teams, I'm not going to be able to watch the game tomorrow night, which is a bummer. Actually, no, not true. I will be able to watch tomorrow night. I was thinking it was tonight for some reason, but you know, I'm curious to see how this game is played because whatever reason last year was the game where was a quick shutout game last year without McDavid and McDavid didn't play.
Yeah, and then that was at the start of the year, and then we came to New York and
crazy third period.
Good, yeah.
It was like a 1-0 game going into the third, right? And then I think the Oilers scored like 4 goals in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That was a crazy game. But these two teams always have fun contests, so I'm excited to see. But yeah, the teams are like very similar vibes.
There's a couple of stats on the Rangers that blow my mind. I think the
Kreider?
one blowing my mind the most, and you mentioned it. Jonathan Quick has a 970 save percentage this year, which is insane from where he was 4 years ago at 876 save percentage. 4 years ago, he finished with the LA Kings before he was traded. Like, what has he done to like kind of turn his career around? I guess he's 38 years old now, and he's still a top goalie, I guess you could say.
Yeah, he's had back-to-back shutouts, I believe, in his last 2 starts. And not to take credit away, I don't know if he's played the best teams in the league. Like, I think one of his shutouts was against the Detroit Red Wings, who are struggling immensely so far this year. And I'm kind of drawing a blank on what the shutout was before that.
He had a game where it wasn't a shutout too, but he stopped like 10 shots against the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's no, the Buffalo game was Igor, and that was a disaster. That was like a 6-1 routing. That was the worst hockey game I've ever been to, actually.
Oh yeah, that was a relief point. Sorry, Seattle was the other one I'm thinking of.
Seattle. Yeah, thank you, Tyler. Seattle, and listen, like the Seattle Kraken are not very offensively gifted. You know, they have like 4 second lines basically on their team. So I don't think that was much of a challenge for Jonathan Quick. I'm not taking anything away from him. Obviously, getting a shot in the NHL is incredibly difficult. And he's looked amazing. But 4 games against teams that aren't necessarily such big threats in the NHL. It is what it is. But his numbers, like you said, have been absolutely incredible. And I'm curious to see if he gets a start tomorrow. I would think he does after Igor's performance last night.
I want to quickly ask you big picture with the goaltending. It feels like every kind of 8 to 10 days we get like an ominous Kevin Weeks tweet that's like a picture of the new skyline, and then like he'll tweet the number 12 or some shit like that. What do you think ultimately happens? Because your co-host on Morning Cuppa Hockey, is Colby still on his Igor's on the first flight to Vegas this summer?
That's also what I said. I was the first one to say that, and Colby's like taking it into his own hands and has ran with it. And like, I guess I'll let him have that one, even though he would never in a million years let me have something. But listen, I think if Vegas, they just signed Shea Theodore to that extension too. I think that was before Shea Theodore signed that extension that like they'd maybe be able to afford him. I still don't know how they would afford him, but I know Vegas's goalies are both UFAs after this year. So that's like where the thought kind of came in. And listen, like I genuinely think Igor probably cares about the money more than he cares about playing in New York. And that's fine. Like, you know what I mean? Like athletes feel that way. And I guess he's not in a rush to sign this deal. He shouldn't be in a rush to sign this deal. He's betting on himself, and he deserves to. He's earned that right. When it comes to goaltending and numbers in the playoffs, I don't think there's been a better postseason performer in goal than Igor over the last three years. Excuse me. The number that I keep getting around to is 11.7. I think he's made it clear that he wants to be the highest paid player on this team, which would put him slightly above Artemi Panarin's 11.6. And listen, like he deserves to be paid as the best player on this team. He is the most important player. And, if teams are paying guys like Draisaitl and McDavid and, Matthews, and he's as important as those guys. So I have no issue with him wanting a lot of money. If it gets to above 12, that's where I'm like, the team in front of him is just going to suck. Like let's just call it a spade a spade. It's hard to fill out the rest of a roster if you're paying your goalie that much money. But that's kind of how the Rangers have been built for the last 20 years. Like it's from the goaltender out. So it wouldn't be anything different than what we've seen previously.
Fair. It'll be interesting. I hope they get it done because I don't want him in the Pacific Division.
Yeah,
that would stink. And Vegas, I mean, if the cap goes up to 92.5, they would have got to add 4 to that. So they would be sitting with just north of 15 million. They have all 7 defensemen signed, 7 forwards under contract.
So always trade someone random. That's what they always do.
Yeah,
a name we don't even expect just gets traded.
Thomas Hurdle, boom, gone.
Yeah.
Mark Stone retires. Johnny, have a good call. Enjoy the weekend and enjoy the hockey tomorrow. Thanks for popping on.
Yeah, thank you guys. Always fun to be on here.
There you go. Johnny Lazarus, Morning Cuppa Hockey and Daily Faceoff. He does a ton of great writing. His like one-on-one interviews that he gets and the features he does on DFO. It's great stuff. So appreciate Johnny giving us some time as the Oilers will take on the Rangers tomorrow night. Pregame show starting at 7:00 right here on the Oilers Nation YouTube. Postgame immediately following as well. Let's get into, I wanted to get to a few things in the YouTube chat. The YouTube chat brought to you by our friends over at Odd Company and the all-new Nation Beer, a crisp, clean lager crafted for game day and every day. Pick up a 4-pack for this weekend. Why not? You got a game day. You got a nice chill Friday night as well. 2 locations in Edmonton as well. The Ritchie location has some beautiful banging pizza. It is so good. So if you're looking for a spot to eat this weekend, why not Odd Company? Everyone seems really, really in on the Blackwood idea. I still think it's save your bullets, get a defenseman. Like, I get the frustration right now in the moment. This tandem also did bring you to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final. Like, I can't tell if I'm just being like a blind homer or if
I know I feel the same way, but I just want to say as well, like, we can't all sit here every day and be like, trade Skinner, and then be like, look how good Ryan McLeod's doing. You know what I mean? Like,
the grass is always greener with some people.
Like,
we're missing Cody Ceci now, and everybody was willing to drive him to the airport for the idea of having Chris Tanev last year, and now we're Skinner. Let's get rid of him and bring in Mackenzie Blackwood of the San Jose Sharks, who's never played a playoff game.
Trade Nurse. Blue line looks like shit without Darnell Nurse.
Yeah. I think it's a conversation. Like, you got to obviously look at every option to like make your team better. But I do just think the options to make your team better in front of Skinner are easier to do. Zach Lang in the chat. How about John Gibson? Zach, you know better.
No.
Just did this.
Zach in the office. I'll come over there, Zach. Someone in the chat said, what about Alex Lyon out in Detroit? So Detroit has a bunch of goalies because they have Husso sitting in the minors. They have Sebastian Cossa in the minors. Carter Geilander, shout out the crew. But Cosa's 22. They probably at some point here on his ELC want to elevate him. They have Talbot, who's playing great hockey. And what's Talbot's cap hit this year?
Like
2.5, I believe.
2.5. He's got one more year. Alex Lyon at $900K. Again, if you want to try, do it. But here's the other thing. Like, we keep talking about upgrading the backup. Calvin Pickard has been largely good this year.
No, his name really just gets thrown under the bus, and he's not really done anything wrong.
The last 5 starts for Calvin Pickard, these are the goals against: 2, 1, 3, 2, and 2.
I would go with playing Pickard a little bit more rather than trading for a backup. And I think you see what that kind of flips. And I think December, the games are so close to each other that you basically have 3 games a week with it. You basically play like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday for the next month.
Yep.
See what happens.
Who'd you start tomorrow, Kumy?
I think you got to go Pickard in this one.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
So in December, by the way, they do have 2 sets of back-to-backs towards the end of the month. Like you said, it's like a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Like, you don't have a lot of days off. They go Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Man, I'm playing a lot of Calvin Pickard, I think, this month. I have no problem with it.
So
that's a good routine month. Lots of games on the same days.
Yeah.
Love that.
Aaron, sorry, do you have the November one there too quickly? Because they do have that 5-day gap, right? So so they have that gap. I think that's actually a really good just reset group for the few days for the entire group. You'll get guys back healthy. You'll come back against Utah. You're ready to go then. So you have back-to-backs there. So obviously they split. Whatever way they go, it is what it is. And then can we just go to December, Aaron? Vegas, Columbus, St. Louis. I think you're probably wanting to start. They're going to start Skinner in 2 of those 3, but I might be tempted to go like Pickard, Skinner.
Start running the hot hand now. Why not?
I would. Pickard's my guy tomorrow night.
You got to go on get a winning streak. This is right around the time last year they went on the 8-game winning streak. It was American Thanksgiving. They beat the Capitals 5-0. This is around the time they got to start heating up. They can't wait until March to have their hot streak.
No, they'd be out of it. They'll be out of it. You actually got mentioned on the radio on the big program this morning because of your all you need is an 8-game heater. Someone texted in, Spruce Grove Corey, I think they said, called in and said, it actually said 10-game heater. So we can only wish for a 10-game heater.
16 would be good.
A 4-game heater would be awesome at the moment.
They kind of had that.
But they didn't dominate it. I wouldn't call that a heater, you know what I mean? Like
the overtime wins where they were blowing leads and
like,
still coming out with wins.
Yeah.
I want to see
wasn't a heater.
Just put the foot through the car floor on a couple of teams. You know what I mean? Like, leave no doubt in our minds that this team is good. And I think too, like, one thing is not being considered in this, like, the chances that are going against the others too are maybe a little bit more dangerous because they're chasing games so much that they're so far up and they're not worried about playing defense. That Skinner's having to make harder saves. You know what I mean? I'll make the attempt to make. But if you're up by a couple, those saves come a lot easier. You know what I mean? You're kind of more structured. You're like, hey, let's just close this game out, and that'll be easier for Skinner as well. But like, I don't know. It's not good, but I think it can be better. It will be better, I should say.
Oh my God, people just drive me nuts. With our current goalie, there won't be a hot streak at all. They won 16 fucking games in a row with this exact goalie last year. Are you insane? Like, I feel like I'm taking
Who said that?
crazy pills.
Oh yeah.
He's always like that though.
Yeah,
but like
he's had a couple,
they
a
what
couple
Stuart
weeks like
Skinner won 13 straight starts last year and had like a 1.5 goals against average. What are we talking about that they can't go on a heater with him? People are just so dumb.
Do you think they're saying that to get a rise out of you?
No, this guy always does it.
Well, do you think he's saying it to get a rise out of you?
Maybe, and it works. But like last year is different.
He also commented on one of our videos yesterday and said, "Fire Knobloch." So he can't coach.
He might not be wrong. They got to change the coach every November or so. It
that's
works.
true.
You know, they fired Tippett, brought Woodcroft in. Good playoff run. Fired Woodcroft, brought Knobloch in. It's time to do it again.
Maybe you're right.
That's just the way it works. Just can't give a coach a 3-year contract because you know it's never going to be that long.
True. Game by game.
It can be like a month by month coaching contract for the Oilers. Switch coaches 2 or 3 times throughout the year. Switch in the middle of the playoffs when they're down in a series.
Just always
They
firing
just
guys.
they need the coaching bump multiple times a year.
What's Mac T up to?
Selling
Good question,
50-50s.
actually. I don't know.
Yeah, he actually is.
I had a feeling the show would be like this. Remember yesterday when we just won a game and everything was awesome?
And we were like, hey, they have a chance to be tied for first in the Pacific.
Beat the Ottawa Senators and everything's fine.
Yeah, they stink. Okay, a couple of things before we wrap up. First, I want to tell you about a new product that's up right now over at nationgear.ca. We launched a holiday sweater. Ho, ho, hope will never die. Boy, doesn't that ring true right now. The first ever Oilers Nation holiday sweater is up now at nationgear.ca. It is beautiful. You will get it in time for your holiday parties. Show your fandom a little bit at your Christmas parties when you're drinking eggnog. It's a great new sweater. And also, whatever your order is at nationgear.ca, you can get 10% off with the promo code. Ready for this? Tyler10.
Whoa.
Promo code Tyler10 gets you 10% off at nationgear.ca. Why not? Black Friday stuff coming too, and I've heard it is absolutely electric. But wanted to wrap up the show with our Bet365 other sports report. Shout out to our friends over at Bet365. Use the promo code NATION, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Kumsey, if you were Bet365 and you had to put odds on Juan Soto being a Blue Jay, what would you put it at?
100%. That's not how.
Are you taking the bait as hard as I am? Because I'm right where I was with Ohtani.
Yeah, this is the only way I can find myself interested in the Toronto Blue Jays at this moment is if I go all the way in on assuming they're going to make some like MLB The Show GM mode style transaction in the offseason. Otherwise, I do not care.
Are they in on anybody else? I feel like last season
They're in on a bunch of arms. Max Fried, I would love Max Fried.
Mm-hmm. I'd take Yusei Kikuchi back.
Yep. Okay, so right now, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. There are 21 teams listed above the Toronto Blue Jays in World Series odds on Bet365. Here's my question for you. By the end of this offseason, with whatever they do, will they move up or down in those rankings?
They'll definitely move up. Yeah, they'll I don't know if it's going to be Juan Soto, but they'll make an ad, and I think that, you know, some of the teams that are above them on the list that aren't going to be the teams making big offseason moves. So they'll probably get some of that standard offseason Toronto hype that's maybe undeserved, but they'll get it anyway.
Fair. All right, boys, let's wrap up with a quick little round of predictions for tomorrow night against the New York Rangers. I'm going to imagine over on Bet365, this one is going to be a pick'em. I think it'll be like, odds are already up for tomorrow. So I have my answer. Oilers are minus 135 favorites. Rangers come in at plus 115. What do you think happens tomorrow night down at Rogers Place?
This is supposed to be back, right?
Potentially. Don't know for sure.
If he's back, that does help. I don't think they'll win. I don't think they have the horses up front right now without Arvidsson and Hyman in the lineup. I think they'll be more competitive, but I think they'll struggle to score again.
Kumsey, what do you think happens?
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's whether it's Jonathan Quick, who's been inexplicably good, or Igor Shesterkin, who's, you know, good. It's one of those two goalies the Oilers are going up against. And I know they did just lay an egg against Minnesota, so they're kind of, you know, due for a rebound game. They do tend to do that, but I don't know. The Rangers are a good team, and they're in a really competitive division. And I think they come back after their game in Calgary and beat the Oilers.
Fair. The Rangers give up the fourth most shots at 5-on-5 in the entire NHL. That gives me a little bit of a reason to believe. But again, if the Oilers aren't going to get to dangerous areas, they're not going to beat these two goalies that the Rangers have. So I'm I'm not confident, but I'm trying to be optimistic because I think they might pile home 36 shots. And again, it'll come down to goaltending. I'd go Pickard tomorrow. And again, people are sitting here like, if you're seriously starting Pickard over Skinner, then you just get rid of Skinner if you're at that point. And it's like, you can go and give him a week. You can go a month with Pickard as your starter.
Yeah.
Who cares? Like, again, just play the hot hand. Like, you can't sit here and be like, they need to do stuff different in their bottom six, send some messages. And then when it comes time to sending a message to the goaltending, also be like, well, you can't do that. I don't know. And I'm a Skinner supporter, but I'd go Pickard for the next bit. All right. Good show, Kumsey. Thanks for hanging out with us for like an hour.
No problem.
Super duper. You can read Kumsey's stuff over at Oilersnation.com. We got a new roundtable coming up with an under-the-radar defenseman that you would like to see the Oilers get. So look for that this weekend, along with all your usual game day stuff. Boardsy's up tomorrow, 7 o'clock with pre-gaming. So make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube so you don't miss anything. Also, Zach Lang has a new piece up on John Gibson right now as well. So some more stuff for you to read throughout the afternoon. Thanks for tuning in this week. All of our guests were fantastic. The YouTube, you guys were largely good, except for that one guy who got me mad at the end of the show. But appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll be back on Monday to hopefully recap an Oilers dub. Enjoy your weekend and oil up.
Thank you for watching Oilers Nation Every Day. Hit the subscribe button to never miss a show. And for more, visit Oilersnation.com.